Hello, and welcome back, and thank you for joining us today. I'm so happy and so grateful you've tuned in. Huge thank you to all of our subscribers and loyal followers as our podcast community continues to grow. I see you and I appreciate you. I've lived in Georgia for over 2 decades now, and wow, the changes in the Georgia landscape has been a lot and still continues to grow at a rapid rate every year. We boast of having the world's busiest airport right here in Atlanta. Georgia just has so much to offer. The weather is great. Most major corporations are here. Housing is still affordable. And we've taken over the movie industry and so much more. So, of course, when people visit, they want to come back and stay, just like I did. Our episode today is titled Communities in Transition Georgia's Changing Landscape. And I'm your host, Stella Harris. And we'll be exploring topics such as new construction, growth patterns across metro Atlanta, and the ongoing impacts of gentrification. Joining me is someone who knows this market inside and out, Ms. Donna Middlebrooks. Donna has been a Georgia realtor for several years and knows all about the growths in our state. An expert with so much knowledge, we had to have her back on the show a second time. Let's get into it. Donna, welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for joining us again today on the Stellar Homes podcast.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I enjoyed myself the last time and looking forward to today's conversation.
Absolutely, because you are a wealth of information. So I am ready to dig in.
Let's go.
Let's go. So, Donna, Georgia has experienced and continues to experience an explosion of growth. What do you think contributes to that?
Well, I think if we're talking about the whole state of Georgia, we are a retirement friendly state. From the coast of Savannah all the way up to our North Georgia mountains here, where Atlanta resides in. I believe there has been an explosion of Southeast corporate headquarters from the tech industry and hospitality and so many other retail companies from the Fortune 100, as well as we're tax friendly. We're a tax friendly state.
Absolutely tax friendly state. Yeah. So it seems like it's jobs and lifestyle that's pulling people here.
Absolutely. We've got the world's busiest airport, so they can land in Atlanta and go wherever they like to go from here. But it's a great jump start.
So let's talk geography. Where are we seeing the most noticeable growth in metro Atlanta?
So interesting. I've been here a little over 3 decades. I'll let y'all do the math on that, right? And it's amazing. Atlanta is one of the few cities in the country that has exploded beyond its airport. So Hartsfield Jackson International Airport sits on the south side.
This is true.
But Atlanta has exploded in the Northeast Corridor, which would take you into a Gwinnett County, going up even out towards Athens, or the Northwest Corridor, which takes you into Cobb County, where the Battery and the Braves Stadium sits, but going even further up to like a Woodstock and a Canton. You can go to the west side, which takes you over to Douglasville, where I live, and keep on going down 20 towards Alabama. Or you can go south and go to Fayette and McDonough, where you see a lot of homes to the studios. And so we have exploded because of the demand of the population that has moved here.
Yes, yes. So, how do you see all these changes affecting communities?
You know, it's interesting. So I would say with the communities, it just kind of depends. So in the Northeast corridor, when you're talking about going up a 400 or a 85 North, there was still a lot of land to build on. And some people are going up there because of the lakes, and you got different areas that they're looking at. And so they're building master communities on the Northeast side as well as the Northwest side. Um, I actually live in a master plan community. So master plan communities give you a mixed residence. So we've got single family homes, we've got townhomes, we've got retail space and commercial building space, as well as some apartment complex that are adjacent, but it allows for you to live, work, and play in your space, especially given the last few years with more people working from home. But when you go inside the city, as you know, we got 285, so there's that OTP outside the perimeter or ITP inside the perimeter. So when you go inside, then you're talking about infilling, right? So existing communities that may have had old housing stock from the 1800s, that is old brick style ranch homes that are now either being torn down and or they're building up and going vertical.
Right, exactly. I can remember, and I've been here a couple of decades when Kennesaw was rural.
Yes, yes. Before KSU became the largest university.
Right. I remember when KSU was just a small college
Just a college.
focused on nursing.
Yeah.
Now look at it. It has exploded with the technology and
Absolutely.
the business program.
Yes.
You know,
And a football team.
football
That's
team
winning.
that's winning. Exactly.
Yes.
So KSU and then Ackworth
Yes.
further up north. And then who would have thought coming? Because there was a time when coming was just wood.
We would basically go up there because the outlets were out there.
Exactly. The outlets were out there.
Mhm.
Now coming is a whole city. So much to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, and this has all been within just the last few years.
I would say the last 10, 15 years. I do know that there were some strategic community plans. And so now you see thriving downtown areas. Like Alpharetta has a beautiful downtown district with restaurants and the walkability and the townhomes and condos that have been
You
built.
know, let's stop spilling these secrets because we're gonna have more influx.
I know. I read on one of my IG accounts the other day, someone was like, Atlanta is full. We are full. We are not taking any more reservations because we have, but we're still affordable by most standards. You can still purchase your first time home in the 300s in Atlanta. I know it's hard to say that's the first home purchase, but compared to a New York, New Jersey, where I'm from, or Cali or Chicago, they're not purchasing a first home new construction
Right.
in the threes,
Right.
right? They're purchasing 30, 40, 50-year-old inventory that is resale.
Exactly.
So we still get to offer affordability for various, incomes depending on where you are. I was used to say when I got into business 20 years ago, I could find a home for my first time home buyer, or I could find a home for my $1 million CEO and or entertainment industry person. But Atlanta has something for everyone, and we still do.
And we still do, exactly. So let's talk a little bit about gentrification. You know, that's a word that has some positive and maybe some negative, just depending on where you're sitting, what's out the fence you are. Because gentrification also symbolizes revitalization, but it can also symbolize maybe displacement. You know, right? What's your view on that?
I think it's both. I said, I've been here for some time, so I've seen the growth inside the city and outside the city. I think when you're speaking about inside the city, the neighborhoods, Atlanta has what they call NPUs, neighborhood planning units. And we have just done a revitalization of what used to be the old railroad tracks to create the Atlanta Beltline.
Right.
That Atlanta Beltline was intentional to connect all of these individual little neighborhoods, right? And with that, though, came in this influx and this access to communities that necessarily weren't on the radar for some. And so now you see communities that are certainly more diverse than they used to be. The South Side, West End area, you hear in the songs, the SWATs, is you can walk down any given street now and you'll see the United Nations. There are homes that have been infilled, meaning they've taken out the old inventory and built new inventory, or they've taken the old bungalow shotgun house and went up and it's now 3 stories with a rooftop, balcony access area. So it just kind of, it's interesting. Although when you go outside of the city, there's a little town like right now called Villa Rica, which is on the west end and on the west side of the city on 20, and they're going through some gentrification right now. So what used to be old, lower income or working class, affordable neighborhoods are now also the land is being taken for eminent domain to increase the roadways because the population is now growth and the demand, because we always say in the business, sometimes you got to drive for affordability. And so if people are looking for a $300,000 house, but they want 5 bedrooms, 4 baths on a basement, they're driving to Villa Rica or they're driving to Conyers and Covington on the east side to be able to find the square footage and the size that they want. And so those communities now that used to be just little bedroom rural communities for the locals. Now we're seeing, my neighbor is from New York and my other neighbor's from Chicago, and one just double back from Florida because they moved down there and they realized this might be a little too slow, and they come on back to Atlanta. So it's just, I think there's good and bad. I hate to see when it impacts those that have been in community and there's not been thoughtfulness to it,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah, that's actually perfect segue to my next question, which was how do we strike a balance? It's not going to be a perfect balance, but you've been in the communities long enough, to be able to give a professional assessment. In your opinion, how do you think we can strike a good balance?
I think it's listening to the community citizens. And granted, we have an aging population, but we have widows that have been educators that have lived in these communities 30, 40 years, and now they can't afford the taxes on the home that they own because of the $1 million home that just was built next door. So I think our city council persons, I think first of all, it starts with us. We have to be advocates of our for our own selves, right? I know recently in my community, we all had to go and appeal our tax bill because
Same here. I had to appeal mine in Cobb County.
yeah, and I'm in Douglas County, but they just finished developing our community, and so all of these nice higher end homes that were built, now our tax bill was prorated against theirs, and it's like, whoa, 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 wait a minute, my house did not change.
Exactly.
My house didn't change. I'm still sitting over here in the same house, same square footage. So I think that becomes an issue with thoughtfulness. I think that zoning, we don't have enough affordable workplace housing, whichever word you want to use. I just attended some meetings recently. I'm on the board with Habitat for Humanities International, and our local Northwest Georgia chapter. We were talking about the South Cobb corridor and affordable workplace housing because the average home in that corridor is at $420,000. Well, that's not affordable housing. And so where do those that work, our public safety, our police, our fire, our medical and health professionals, where do they live? Where does the person that's, ringing you up at McDonald's live?
Exactly.
Where do they live?
Where do they live?
And how do they get to afford a piece of their American dream? They should not have to be restricted to apartment complexes.
Right.
So I think zoning is a major issue and concern. We have some really old zoning on the books, so it's hard to buy to build density. It's hard to build workplace housing or what they consider affordable housing from a perspective of does it work in my community? Because the $500,000 home doesn't want the $200,000 home next to them in their community, but everyone deserves the right to live somewhere
Exactly.
and to live in a comfortable community and a secure community and have their children go to the school systems that they want to go to.
Exactly. Totally agree. That's why I really love this conversation because this is real life.
It is
Every day I have sellers. As a matter of fact, just had a seller in Douglas County that got property taxed out of his home.
I believe it.
Bought a home in less than 2 years, could no longer afford it.
Right.
I was like, wow, stunned. So property taxes is something we really need to.
It is property taxes and insurances because of the storms that have come through. I know I had to get on the phone not only with the for the county, right, to appeal the taxes, get on the phone with my insurance representative to say, hey, we need to look at this and reassess the value of my home because again, they're valuing it at what the new tax rate is. And I'm thinking, yeah, so again, my house did not change. And so let's talk about what this is because it can be I've had clients like you that have called me and said, Donna, my mortgage just went up $500, $800, $1,000.
Hmm.
That's insane. That is insane. So how do you then compensate for that? Because our salaries are not increasing at that rate, especially when you've got an aging population of those that are retiring and trying to figure out how to settle down and figure out I'm getting ready to be on a fixed income.
Yes.
How do I now pay this difference, this significant difference? And so we really have to have some tough conversations with our leaders, our
Yeah.
local leaders.
Yeah. Yeah. Something really needs to be done. And hopefully, they listen And I'm sure they know.
Well, they have to listen. We have the power of the vote.
We do. There is that. There is that. But yeah, that's one of our housing issues is that sellers that have homes that's way too big for them. They've um, raised their children, but they can't sell because they won't be able to afford to buy a smaller home.
The smaller home is based on the lifestyle that they've become accustomed to. That smaller ranch home takes up more land because they want to be on one level, and we need two owners suite because not only is it us, it's the parents that come along with us that have aged out of their home or we've become a primary caregiver, and so that takes up more space. And again, goes back to that zoning. We don't have zoning that even allows for ADUs, which is an accessory dwelling unit. And so Cobb is behind, Douglas is behind, Fulton is behind. Most of our metro Atlanta counties are giving you the runaround with being able to do an attached or a separate unit on your property to be able to accommodate for your parents or those kids that are coming back home. We think there's something wrong with multi-generational living, and there's not.
There's not at all.
It's not.
Luckily, in my neighborhood, we have been able to do some of that. My next door neighbor, was able to accomplish that. Thank God. But most counties, like you said, are not open to that.
And they're restricting it because first and foremost, I think what really irritated me is they started restricting it from the short-term rental perspective because they didn't want you to have an Airbnb or a VRBO. But if I'm sitting here telling you I am expanding my home or I need separate space for my parents or my children on my property that you're already overtaxing me on, we need to have a serious conversation about that. And in addition to the restrictions on the density, so then some of our counties still require that the minimum house be 2,000 square feet. Well, these young people don't even want houses that size. They want micro homes. They want tiny homes. They want something that is one or two bedrooms, but they want the walkability. They want a serviceable community that they can bike and walk and do all of the outdoor things, which I'm excited about, right? Children are going back outside again. I mean, they're always playing outside in my neighborhood, so I'm excited about that. They've gotten away from all of this technology that they've gotten stuck on for so many years. So I'm excited to see the children outside on their bikes and their scooters, even if it is an electric bike.
Yeah, but hey, it's better than being in front of this thing all day,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So, very, very, very good. So, if you had to look 5 or 10 years, from now, what do you think Georgia's real estate landscape will look like?
Interestingly enough, I was in Macon with a client earlier this week, and that's considered middle Georgia. Uh, lots of housing inventory needed there. You can see the new construction out and around, and that's in Bibb County. So it's an hour and a half out of Atlanta. So it's definitely not the metro. But for Georgia on a whole, I think you're going to see more master planning. I think we have a lot of food deserts when you go into certain communities. So there's going to be an opportunity for the master planning of communities where it's some type of mixed use development. Uh, I think with the pickleball craze that's going on right now, pickleball. That's us. That's absolutely changing the dynamics of what your neighborhood looks like. So, like I said earlier, it's the United Nations around here in some of these places. Just being in Macon, they took over the mall space and have over 50 courts in there. So, in the community that it's in, it was predominantly minority, but now you're seeing an influx of not only people from around the country, but around the world coming in. So you're seeing different dialects, different languages coming in, and different demands on what the needs are of that population, right? Because they're looking. And so if you look at certain communities, you'll see cultural stores coming in, and you'll start seeing restaurants that are indicative of the community that has moved in. Yeah, which I love. I absolutely love that. I love cultural foods of all cultures, honey. I'm a foodie. And so I love that having grown up in New Jersey. I love the fact that I can just go down the street now and get some Cuban food or some Puerto Rican food or some Polish food or some, just whatever that looks like and it's authentic.
Exactly. And that's the good parts, right? Yeah, I love it. So finally, you
Yes.
know, you always such a wealth of information. So we've got to have you back. So because there's just so much more to dig deeper into. But what advice would you give to a homeowner, seller, investor, um, trying to navigate this new Georgia landscape? I know it's, depending on what their goals are, but what would be like a general advice?
So it's definitely, you said it, the key thing is what are your goals? What are we trying to do in the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? So that's important because that determines as a seller, if you're trying to downsize, you might as well do it now. Just do it now.
Thank
You cannot offload that larger home quick enough. Sitting there waiting, thinking the buyer needs lower interest rates. No, because typically you're in a high-end luxury home in our market, which is 750 or up. If you're in a luxury home, they either can afford it or they can't afford it. If you're trying to downsize, you're going to realize that downsizing is probably just right sizing for most of them. Because even though they say I want to downsize, they just want to right size to the right type of home for their lifestyle because they still have the children and the grandchildren coming home. So I think it's knowing your numbers, speaking to your real estate professional, speaking to your wealth planner, and understanding what your portfolio looks like from a seller perspective. And if I'm flipping that to the buyer side, you cannot wait for the interest rates to keep going down. Because as the interest rate is going down, so are the prices of that home going up. So you've not saved yourself any. As we say, you can date the mortgage, but marry the house.
Exactly.
Find the house that you love, go into the house, and then you can navigate everything else
Absolutely.
along the way. So I think that's the advice for my reload clients. If they're not familiar with the area, I always like to take time to say, what's good? And there comes that lifestyle conversation again. Do you like to go into the city? Do you want to be in a more rural area? Do you want more land? Do you have family and friends here? Do we need to live on that side of town? And most are like, no, 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 no. We can be on the other side of town so they don't just drive by, right? But I think that makes a difference. So I think it's important to have the consultations, whether it be from the buyer side or the seller side. It is always important to have that consultation and understand. I call it the wants, the needs, the desires, the loves, the hates. What does that look like for you so that we can paint the right picture?
Absolutely. Absolutely perfect answers, as always. As
I
al
don't know about perfect, but
Close enough.
they are from my experience. So that's all I can share is my experience.
Exactly, and your experience is everything, so
It is.
and
Your experience is everything. All of us bring our experiences to the table.
well, thank you, and that's what I love about this podcast, is that we all have experiences, we all have so much knowledge to share,
Yes.
and I
Yes.
thank you for taking your time. This is a very busy woman, and taking your time to share with us your knowledge today. So, Donna, please let our audience know, how can they be in touch with you? I know how to reach you.
Right. Absolutely.
Please provide your contact information for our audience.
Sure, sure, sure. So I can be reached on Donna Sells the Dream on Instagram and Facebook. And then Donna Middlebrooks on LinkedIn, because I need all of those professional folks to reach out to us. As well as you can reach me directly on my business mobile, which is 770-314-6059 to talk about all of their real estate needs.
Fantastic. So, thank you again so much, Donna. We'll talk with you soon.
Absolutely.
Ciao. Thank you so much for watching today's show. And remember to follow our show on this channel by subscribing below. And leave a comment to let me know your best takeaways from today's episode. Please also share this episode with a friend. I love building a community that's always learning, always growing, and always your universe for all things real estate. Until next time, I'm Stella Harris, and I'll see you soon.